Big Island, also known as Hawaii, is the fiery giant of the Hawaiian chain. Once a sleepy hideaway that attracted only the most adventuresome tourists, Big Island has recently blossomed into the fastest-growing vacation destination in Hawaii. The main attraction here is the remarkable variety of landscape. As the most recent island of the Hawaiian chain to rise up out of the sea, Big Island provides a fascinating field study in the Earth's primal forces. The giant craters of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, two massive sea mountains that, along with two lesser volcanoes, form the island's backbone, peak at nearly 14,000 feet above sea level, and their gentle slopes fall away to the ocean in all directions. Near Mauna Loa's eastern shore, a string of still active calderas occasionally erupt in fiery fountains of molten rock, though more often the flow is in small rivulets. This is the world's most active volcano field, and chances are you will find some type of activity. Draping the slopes for miles over many parts of the island are a succession of rolling rivers of frozen lava, evidence of the recent centuries of volcanic rumblings. Amidst the nooks and crannies of these crumbly deserts, nature is in the early stages of her patient reclamation. On the damp eastern or windward coast, plentiful rainfall has cut deep ravines where gushing waterfalls leap toward the sea. In this area, a lush cloak of virgin rainforest alternates with broad cultivated slopes of waving sugarcane. 7 of the world's 8 climates are found on Big Island, from tropical to Arctic, desert to rainforest, with only tundra missing. On this miniature continent, it is possible to go from snow skiing to scuba diving in the space of a few hours. Colorful seaside craters and exotic stretches of black sand occasionally dot an otherwise rocky coast. There are only a few white sand beaches on Big Island, and nearly all of these are claimed by the larger hotels. Surfers should note that there is not much in the way of good wave riding anywhere around the island. As much for its natural allure, Big Island is popular for its undeveloped wide open spaces, and its sheer size would seem to assure that it will remain relatively uncrowded for years to come. With an area of over 4,000 square miles and a circumference of nearly 300 miles, Big Island is twice the size of all the other Hawaiian islands combined, with only 10% of the population. Most of Big Island is a broad collage of rolling lava fields, grassy rangelands, fields of sugarcane, plunging valleys, and emerald forests laid over a gentle volcanic slope. Along with a few clusters of large-scale development, there is just a scattering of small towns and villages that do little to interrupt the broad sweeps of nature. Big Island was the birthplace of Kamehameha the Great, a giant in Hawaiian history who unified the islands under one rule in the early 1800s. A rich historical record tracing the dramatic changes that quickly brought Hawaii from the Stone Age to the Space Age can be found at many sites around the island. Beautifully restored ancient temples, missionary churches, and a royal palace are a few of the stops that make touring Big Island a delight for even the most casual historian. There are 3 primary tourist areas on Big Island: the town of Kailua on the Kona coast, the large hotels that run along the coast of the Kohala district at Waikoloa, and the town of Hilo on the opposite windward side. Kailua has emerged as Big Island's main tourist center. A dozen blocks of shops, restaurants, hotels, and condos run along a generally rocky and often wave-pounded shoreline. There are only a few small beaches. The town pier is the central gathering place and launch area for a wide variety of water activities that include deep-sea fishing, rides on everything from glass-bottom boats to submarines, and raucous booze cruises. Souvenirs and T-shirts are the dominant gift items, and there are a few notable shops that specialize in works by local artists. Along with several good seaside restaurants, a few notable historic points of interest make Kailua well worth at least a half-day visit if you are staying elsewhere on the island. This is Big Island's primary port of call for visiting cruise ships, and when the big ships are in port, the town quickly fills up with souvenir seekers. Up the leeward coast, some 25 miles north of Kailua, Big Island's increasing popularity is being spurred on by a classy array of large resorts that are springing up along the sunny Kohala coastal region near Waikoloa. Here, visitors can choose from modern and sometimes mind-boggling selections of resort themes that range from established elegance to Disney-esque fantasy lands. There is no real town here to speak of, This is more just a large collection of a dozen hotel and condo properties and several golf courses. Hilo, located across the island some 105 driving miles from Kailua and 70 from the Kohala Hotel area, was originally a booming whaling town founded in 1778. Many of the once opulent trading and commerce buildings have been converted into restaurants and shops catering to a small flow of visitors. Up through the early 1980s, Hilo was the main tourist area of Big Island, with most visitors now opting for the newer modern facilities and plentiful sunshine that is becoming the trademark of the Kohala and Kona districts on the opposite coast. The tourist boom in Hilo has also passed. The town has settled back into being a sleepy, somewhat faded locals' haven that is actually quite delightful for its historic charm and lack of crowds. While the 140 inches of average annual rainfall in this area is certainly a big factor in the dampened tourist trade, it also accounts for the region's successful industry of flower farming. Many large hillside farms above the town grow orchids, anthuriums, and other highly prized ornamental flowers. There are several vacation activities of note on Big Island. Golf at any of several Kohala resorts is a linksman's dream, where fairways have been laid over lava fields with stunning results. The Robert Trent Jones design at the Mauna Kea Hotel is the island's oldest course, and maturity has made it one of the area's most beautiful layouts. Deep sea fishing all around Big Island is reputedly among the best in the world, and a large international tournament is held in Kailua each summer. Ranching is a primary business on Big Island, with some 500,000 acres of grazing land, and it is little surprise that horseback riding is available through the upcountry pastures above the Kohala coast. The most notable vacation activity on Big Island is touring the many historical and natural highlights. While several tour operators schedule daily trips to the major attractions, most visitors will find that a rental car will allow for more pleasing explorations. There are 6 regions that require about 4 full days of touring to take in all the sights. Kailua and the Kona coast to South Point, the North and South Kohala regions, including the Kohala Mountains and the charming ranching town of Waimea, the rugged Hamakua coast from Waipio Valley to Hilo, and Volcanoes National Park and the Cow Desert. Tours of the Kona region invariably begin in Kailua. The most common tour is simply walking along the waterfront and perusing the shops. The highlight here is the Hulahei Palace, a former seaside retreat for Hawaiian royalty in the 19th century, and now a museum maintained by the Daughters of Hawaii. For a small fee, visitors can take a guided tour of an interesting collection of royal furniture, as well as ancient artifacts from the days of Kamehameha the Great. On the north side of town, the Kamehameha Hotel edges one of the area's best beaches. Jutting out from the shore here is the Ahuena Heiau, which was the seat of the Hawaiian government during the final years of Kamehameha the Great. Of the several seafaring rides that depart from the pier at the center of town, one deserves special mention, the Atlantis submarine ride. A short trip in a launch takes passengers to the submarine loading area, where you can watch the subsurface. This 50-passenger sub was specifically built for shallow water touring. The 45-minute dive goes to a depth of 150 feet. While there's not much in the way of interesting coral formations in the Kailua Bay area, the highlight of the trip are the many fish that are coaxed right up alongside the sub by handouts doled out by divers that accompany the sub for much of the ride. This is a rare and wonderful opportunity to explore the undersea world on a submarine, and though somewhat expensive, the trip is very delightful and highly recommended. In the middle of the condos and hotels that string the coast along Ali'i Drive south of Kailua is one of the area's best beaches, appropriately named Disappearing Sands. The wave action scours the beach to bedrock each winter and returns the sand each spring. Heading south from Kailua along the Kona coast, the Hawaiian Belt Road climbs up sharply and winds through the small towns of Kealakekua and Captain Cook. Just past Captain Cook, descending a side road to the coast will give you a wonderful view south of the Kona coast down to Kealakekua Bay. Kealakekua Bay's notoriety in history came in January 1779 when English explorer Captain James Cook, who discovered the Hawaiian Islands only 10 months before, learned firsthand of the Hawaiians' skill in warfare. A marine landing intended to discipline locals for pilfering a small boat ended in a total rout of the British force and the death of Captain Cook. Across the bay, a monument marks the site where the celebrated explorer met his end. The road continues south along the coast through an arid stretch of lava fields and brush before coming to Pu'uhonua o Honaunau. This is the place of refuge of Honaunau. According to ancient Hawaiian law, when anyone who broke the laws of Kapu, which included such seemingly petty offenses as women eating certain foods or casting a shadow on the king, it was considered an affront to vengeful gods, and the price of appeasement was death. But if the offender could reach a place of refuge like Honaunau before being slain, he could be purified by a priest and returned to society. During the frequent wars, these safe havens provided protection for non-combatants and wounded warriors. Honaunau is the only place of refuge on Hawaii that has been fully restored. The well-organized, self-guided tour set up and run by the U.S. National Park Service takes about an hour and should not be missed. Heading back up to the main highway will bring you to St. Benedict's Painted Church. Inside, the walls and ceilings were lovingly painted by an early missionary with murals which depicted biblical scenes that aided in teaching Christianity to the native Hawaiians. There is not much of interest along the Kona coast south of here. The Hawaii Belt Road runs for 60 miles south of Kailua, passing through macadamia nut groves and barren lava flows before coming to a turnoff for South Point. A 12-mile, two-lane spur runs due south, bisecting the southern tip of Big Island, a beautiful expanse of windswept grassy plains with rolling ocean on either side. Along with cattle grazing, the constant trade winds make this area ideal for wind farming, and several large arrays of wind generators provide power for much of the island. At the southern tip, you'll have nice views to the west of the Kona coast. Taking a side road to Mahana Bay will bring you to the starting point for a glorious hike to the green sand beach along the eastern side of South Point. A relatively easy 3-mile trail along the windy coast can be negotiated with 4-wheel drive, though most visitors opt for the walk. The green sand beach is a semicircular seaside crater of opaline crystals and sand. It is a slippery slide down to the beach, and agile footing is required for the trip up. The waves and current can be dangerous here, so this is not really much of a bathing spot. But the rolling ocean views, stout breezes, and lack of crowds make this a wonderful hike. A half-day excursion will let you take in the territory north of Kailua along the leeward coast, known as the Kohala District. From Kailua, the Queen Ka'ahumanu Highway runs up the coast through 25 continuous miles of relatively recent lava flows. Average annual rainfall along the Kohala coast is only about 30 inches, hard on plants but great for sunbathing. The first break in this desert landscape is the resorts of Waikoloa and the surrounding golf courses. If you are not staying here, it is worth a stop to witness the current state-of-the-art in grand hotels. Right nearby, you can hop on a Papillon helicopter for rides to all parts of the island. Flights begin with a flyover of the luxury hotels. Among the several tour options is a trip along the cliffs of the Hamakua coast, which includes a bird's-eye view of the Waipio Valley. A full island tour includes a trip to Volcanoes National Park. These tours are a wonderful way to see the grandeur of Big Island. At the village of Puako, a hand-lettered sign marks a trailhead that leads to one of Hawaii's most impressive petroglyph fields. A pleasant 20-minute hike through kiawe groves will bring you to an acre of smooth pahoehoe lava that has been etched end-to-end by ancient Hawaiians. While the significance of all the drawings is not fully understood, in the circles, high priests place the umbilical cords of newborns as part of a ceremony that predicted the child's future. Just a bit further on is Hapuna State Park, Big Island's best white sand beach and a popular recreation area with full picnic facilities. A few hundred yards above the beach is a small cluster of rustic cabins that can be reserved through the State Park Service. The road continuing on to the northern tip of Big Island runs along the arid leeward coast of the Kohala Mountains, inhabited only by a few head of cattle. In the northernmost reaches of Big Island, the old plantation towns of Hawi and Kapa'au are very quaint with few tourist attractions. In Kapa'au, there is a statue that celebrates this area as the birthplace of Kamehameha. The major commercial activity in this North Kohala region is cattle ranching. The road ends at the Pololu Valley Lookout, where you can peek southward down the all but impassable sea cliffs of the Hamakua coast. For a scenic return trip, take the Kohala Mountain Highway that climbs up high country prairie to nearly 4,000 feet. You'll enjoy several broad ocean views before dropping down to the charming ranching town of Waimea. Waimea is headquarters for the 225,000-acre Parker Ranch, and at the Visitor Center located in the middle of town, you can tour a small museum filled with family lore that includes a short video presentation. Visitors then hop small buses for a tour of the ranch highlights. The final stop is at the Parker Ranch Homes, still occupied by descendants of the original Parker family. The Great Hall is filled with a rather remarkable art collection, including several works of the European masters. A tour of Hilo and the Hamakua coast is a wonderful all-day affair that reveals some of Big Island's most beautiful landscape. Situated along the cup of a large harbor that was once filled with tall-masted whaling ships, Hilo is a delightful trip through time to what one would imagine Hawaii was like decades ago. A sleepy, simpler era where a hometown friendliness prevails. While faded and peeling and even seedy in places, Hilo exudes a refreshing authenticity that is not driven by tourist dollars. Unfortunately, the historic waterfront district was destroyed in a 1948 tidal wave and is now just a long grassy park. Among the few local points of interest is the Lyman Museum and Mission House. The museum contains a nice display of the many cultures that have blended together to create modern Hawaii. Other exhibits cover volcanic lore, the minerals and geology of Hawaii, and an extensive collection of shells from all over the Pacific. Hilo's main hotel district is across the bay from the center of town along Banyan Drive, where a long circle of these giant trees have been planted by an assortment of notable people. A half dozen older and generally standard hotels edge a flat peninsula that juts out into the bay. Along this route, you'll pass the Liliuokalani Japanese Garden, which overlooks the bay towards Hilo. Right nearby is Coconut Island, a favorite local picnic spot. A couple of miles above Hilo is majestic Rainbow Falls, one of the most impressive cascades in all Hawaii. Just a bit further upstream are the frothy cauldrons known as boiling pots, where the river has cut a succession of bowls that spill one into the next. Heading north out of Hilo up the Hamakua coast, be sure to turn off at the exit marked Scenic Route. This will take you along a short stretch of coast road that runs across narrow bridges and through leafy canopies, and gives an idea of what the earlier road system in this area was like. The headquarters for the Hawaii Tropical Botanical Garden is along this route. The garden is filled with a wonderful assortment of local and exotic plants, along with a few birds. There is also a nice seaside resting spot. Continuing up the coast, you'll pass through miles of sugarcane fields that blanket much of the mountainside all the way to the sea. This area is the eastern foot of Mauna Kea, and due to the gradual even slope that is so typical of both Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, on a clear day you can see all the way up to the space observatories that rest on the volcano summit more than 13,000 feet above. The road leaps across several lush, narrow valleys that are a trademark of the Hamakua coast, and the bridges are a favorite platform for photographers. There are many small towns along this route, and a swing off the highway allows for a pleasant respite in a variety of settings that seem lifted out of the Old West. About 12 miles outside of Hilo, a short side trip up the side of Mauna Kea leads to Akanka Falls State Park. A mile-long circular trail leads through a 70-acre preserve that is resplendent with giant bamboo, orchids, azaleas, plumeria, bird of paradise, and giant philodendrons. In the middle of the hike is an overlook of the 440-foot falls. This is a popular and often crowded spot. Visitors who want a more private communing with nature may want to visit nearby Kulapas State Park rainforest. Muddy footpaths lead through the sodden forest of eucalyptus, silk oak, tropical ash, and ironwood. Inexpensive group cabins are available through the Hawaii State Park system. 50 miles north of Hilo is the colorful enclave of Honoka'a Town, where a rich Portuguese heritage prevails. Just outside of Honoka'a is the Ka'amaina Wood Factory. Peek inside and you'll see skilled artisans in the many stages of carving beautiful bowls of koa wood that are highly prized throughout the islands. The road along the Hamakua coast ends at the Waipio Valley Lookout, where you can peer north along this rugged, pristine coastline. Just before here is the Last Chance Store, so named for the few dozen people who live in the Waipio Valley and beyond. This is where visitors sign up for one of Big Island's most wonderful excursions, the Waipio Valley Wagon Rides. After taking a crawling jeep ride that descends 900 feet to the valley floor, passengers hop on a mule-powered wagon for a wonderful open-air tour of the valley. The guide and owner is an encyclopedia of local lore. During the ride, visitors are given a detailed account of the history of Waipio Valley, from the days of Kamehameha when it was known as Valley of the Kings and supported an estimated 4,000 people. The ride includes a stop along the valley's black sand beach. While there are also jeep tours through Waipio Valley, anyone who has taken this tour will tell you that the open-air ride, engaging guide, and his sprightly wife make the wagon ride the way to go. You can motor into the Waipio Valley yourself if you have rented a four-wheel drive vehicle, even though this will not guarantee safe passage. Waipio Valley today supports a small group of hardy souls living a decidedly alternative lifestyle, which you too can get lost in by staying at the very inexpensive and Spartan Waipio Motel, situated in the middle of the valley floor. A special all-day excursion that should be a required trip for all visitors to Big Island is a tour of Volcanoes National Park. Located 30 miles down the coast from Hilo, this 250 square mile volcano field is stunning in its immensity and variety of formations. Near the entrance to the park is Volcano House, a small lodge that is perched on the edge of the giant Kilauea crater, which was quite active at the turn of the century, but has since quieted down considerably. The rooms here are small and simple. The restaurant overlooks the crater, and as the only eatery for miles around, attracts a large crowd. The road leads around the rim of Kilauea for a few miles before reaching the Jaeger Museum and Hawaiian Volcanic Observatory. Various educational displays on volcanology include seismometers that track the current rumblings throughout the park. The observation deck offers a panorama of the Halemaumau crater, and plaques give interesting visitors graphic descriptions of the workings of volcanoes. Continuing the loop around Kilauea, you'll enjoy several scenic overlooks. About halfway through the 11-mile loop is the Desolation Trail, where a half-mile boardwalk leads through what was once an ohio forest before a 6-foot layer of ash and pumice left this barren landscape of bleached tree skeletons. Right near here, Chain of Craters Road begins its 25-mile drop to the ocean, passing a series of small craters. You'll soon cross a small sea of smooth pahoehoe lava before beginning a quick descent to a broad coastal plain ribboned with recent lava flows. The road runs along coal-black cliffs, where the ocean has patiently carved out a few ebony beaches. The near-constant surf and swift currents make swimming impossible in this area, though there are a few nice seaside hiking trails. Chain of Craters Road ends quite definitively wherever the most recent lava flows have flooded over the roadway. Every few years, the road gets pushed back a little further. While the park can be without active flows for years at a time, the past decade has seen nearly continuous activity, and park rangers will tell you where to go to best observe the current flows. Helicopter rides are often the best way to witness the lava streams, especially if you are lucky enough to be visiting on the few occasions when there is a full eruption. Continuing on the belt road that circles the island will bring you to the Cow Desert, which, resting in the rain shadow of Kilauea, receives a scant 10 inches of annual rainfall. There is not much of interest in this part of the island other than the black sand beach at Punalu'u, which is 25 miles past Volcanoes National Park. Here is where you will find the rather isolated Sea Mountain Golf and Tennis Resort. This area is really not worth visiting unless you decide to take the South Point route to return to the Kona side of the island. The only area of Big Island that you will have missed after all this touring is the saddle road that runs from Hilo to Kona between the peaks of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. This rough road is not the shortcut it may appear to be on the map, and should especially be avoided in the winter if there is any chance of freezing temperatures in the higher elevations. It does, however, offer scenic views of Big Island's midsection, and the main reason you'll drive it is to visit the summit of Mauna Kea. The visitor center here is not much to speak of, and to go beyond here, four-wheel drive is recommended. It is a steep, exhilarating climb up 10 miles of winding, unpaved roads through a landscape that seems lifted from the moon. At the summit, clusters of high-tech radioscopes pierce the heavens. This is the highest point of land in the Pacific Basin, at 13,796 feet. The views are spectacular, and to the northwest you can see Maui's Haleakala summit about 90 miles away. In winter, a blanket of snow makes skiing possible, though the absence of ski lifts and warm-up huts discourage all but the most avid ski nuts from participating. Astronomy enthusiasts may be disappointed when finding out that there are no large telescopes here for visually viewing the night sky. But if you call for reservations several weeks ahead, you may be invited to join one of the weekly evening expeditions that tour the inner workings of these earthbound space stations. When deciding where to stay on Big Island, your choices range from exclusive hideaways to modern mega resorts to intimate bed and breakfast private homes. Located midway between Kailua and Waikoloa on a very private stretch of the Kohala coast, Kona Village exudes an elegant simplicity that belies its posh services and amenities. Inspired by the various architectural styles of Polynesia, the village consists of a series of hut clusters grouped together in regional designs that include the building styles of Tonga, Tahiti, Samoa, Palau, and Hawaii. Many of the huts run along a salt and pepper beach, while others circle an inland pond or rest in garden settings. Each hut, or hale as they are called, is private, and the inside furnishings of the 1- and 2-room suites are both rich and simple. Well-prepared meals are included in the room rate, and are served in 2 oceanside dining rooms. Daily special activities include everything from botanical walks to lei-making lessons. Sailing, snorkeling, and other water sport activities are offered, and there are several tennis courts. While expensive, the seclusion, individual privacy, and attentive staff has earned Kona Village a reputation as Hawaii's favorite getaway. If the ultimate in full and modern facilities is more to your liking, and especially if you have brought the kids, the Hyatt Waikoloa is a fabulous $360 million resort that has more than a passing similarity to Disney World. Stretching out over 62 acres, the many buildings are connected by a mile-long transportation system of both monorail and motorized launch, actually designed by Disney, and ambulatory guests enjoy a mile-long walkway that is a museum of Pacific and Oriental art. While there is no natural beach, Several dazzling pools, complete with waterfalls, swaying bridges, and water slides, along with a large man-made lagoon, more than make up for it. A daily lottery selects several dozen guests to swim for a half hour with a family of dolphins. The 1,200 rooms are very nicely furnished, and many have views of the grounds and ocean. There are 8 tennis courts and 5 nearby golf courses, along with a full health spa, exercise room, and racquetball courts. The Mauna Kea Beach Hotel is the Grand Dame of Big Island, and preferred by those who want a more established elegance. Originally founded by Lawrence Rockefeller and now part of the Westin chain, Mauna Kea is located right on Big Island's most beautiful Crescent Beach. The rooms are large and elegant, with broad ocean views. Breezy atriums are lined with a stunning antique and art collection. Along with a pool, extra amenities include a dozen tennis courts and a Robert Trent Jones designed seaside golf course. If you are looking for a condominium, the Royal Seacliff Resort condos offer comfortable, more moderately priced 1- and 2-bedroom units just 2 miles south of Kailua. As is true with most of the properties south of Kailua, there is no beach, and visitors get by at one of the 2 pools. In Hilo, the Nanaloa Hotel is one of the area's best. Situated at the furthest curve of Banyan Drive, many of the rooms here offer wonderful views of Hilo Bay. The nicely decorated rooms have been recently renovated. There is a small pool and restaurant overlooking a large lawn and the ocean beyond. If you would like to stay in the upcountry midway between Hilo and Kailua, Waimea Garden Cottage is a charming bed and breakfast situated at 2,500 feet amidst the rolling hills of Waimea. This rough-hewn cottage is filled with country antiques and furnishings and includes a full kitchen. Through Bed and Breakfast Hawaii, you can stay in private homes with Hawaiian families at any of several locations around the island. For example, in the hills just above Kailua, one homeowner offers a delightful bedroom that opens up to a large screened-in lanai. Breakfasts are included. For uncrowded spaces, dramatic, seemingly prehistoric landscapes, along with modern hotels and full vacation activities, the place to visit is the Big Island of Hawaii.